Good evening and welcome to Crossroads. The legal attacks on former President Donald Trump don't look like they're working, at least not working if they are really part of an agenda to interfere with his 2024 presidential campaign. Over the last 3 weeks, Donald Trump raised close to $20 million for his campaign. About $7.1 million of that came in after he was booked in Atlanta, that big mugshot he had. He's rising in the polls, and now guess what? Well, it's looking unlikely, really, that anyone in the Republican side can take that away from him. But also now, it looks like the next agenda is upon us. Disqualify Trump from ever holding office ever again. A law firm recently filed a lawsuit arguing that Trump can be disqualified from the elections. And while this is new, it actually pulls from an agenda which the establishment has been proposing since 2021 and has actually tried before. I'll explain. Now, the basis of this is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868 just after the Civil War. It says a person can be banned from election or appointment to any level of government office if they, quote, engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. The establishment has been arguing that this could apply to Trump's actions to challenge the 2020 elections and for his alleged role in January 6. And now that agenda is really taking form. A lawyer in South Florida filed a complaint against Trump to deem him ineligible to run for president. It argues the constitutional amendment, quote, automatically excludes from future office and position of power in the U.S. government and as well from any office and position of power in the sovereign states and their many subdivisions any individual who has previously taken out an oath to support and defend our Constitution and after which acts so as to rebel against that charter either via overt insurrection or by giving aid or comfort to the Constitution's enemies. Now, this complaint is heavily based on narratives from the criminal charges that Trump is currently facing in Georgia and under Special Counsel Jack Smith. In other words, based on current trials, essentially. It also pulls from narratives that were promoted by the Democrat Committee to investigate January 6th, the one that's currently facing controversy for deleting the evidence. But regardless of the fact that the constitutional argument is based on allegations still in court, in other words, they're not legally sound yet, it argues that it should be able to proceed regardless. It states, quote, this so-called disqualification cause has been determined to operate completely independently of any criminal proceedings and also independent of any impeachment proceedings or congressional legislation, or at least that's the interpretation. Of course, we're going to see how this goes. Even some pretty far-left publications are acknowledging that while this legal challenge, it's a long shot. The Daily Beast noted the amendment, quote, has hardly been exercised in modern history. It quotes Charles Zeldin, a professor of history and legal studies in Nova Southeastern University, stating this. It says, quote, realistically, it's not a Hail Mary, but it's just tossing the ball up and hoping it lands in the right place. But regardless of how this far-fetched thing really sounds, it looks like this constitutional argument, the one they're trying to make right now, it's been part of the agenda. It's been part of the agenda for years. They've even tried it before. Think of it like the new insurance policy to try to block Trump from being president again. Back in January of 2021, shortly after the Jan 6 incident, this was the big narrative the establishment was pushing. Reuters reported at the time that, quote, some U.S. lawmakers have said President Donald Trump should be disqualified from holding political office again following his impeachment on Wednesday for inciting a mob that stormed the Capitol as lawmakers were certifying President-elect Joe Biden's victory. Now, it noted at that time the 14th Amendment was already being considered as a way to block Donald Trump from ever coming back as president. Now, the House of Representatives approved an article of impeachment that accused Trump of inciting insurrection based on allegations his speech on January 6th helped spark riots. The Senate was allegedly considering whether they could use the 14th Amendment to block Trump from holding office again. But of course, the Senate did not go through with it. There are also some glaring problems with trying to use the 14th Amendment to block Trump. And this was already acknowledged because why? They tried it before. In the past, it has been used to disqualify 3 federal judges from holding office again through impeachment. A key problem is that it does not look like the president, any president, let alone Trump, would qualify as an office that the disqualification clause could apply to. In other words, it's not shown to have actually been used like this or usable like this. But they tried to do it based on congressional precedent. They'd need a simple majority in the House and Senate to do it. And even then, however, Trump could still likely challenge it. And that decision would almost definitely be in the hands of the Supreme Court, where, of course, conservatives do have a majority. But legal or not, and possible or not, well, it looks like political actors are going to try it anyway. News outlets are pushing the agenda, really on and off over the years. Bloomberg floated it. Voice of America noted that some lawmakers are looking to attempt it. What seems to be forgotten now, though, is that Democrats tried it. Now, look, last year, House Democrats introduced legislation to bar Trump from holding office ever again, using the 14th Amendment yet again. They announced this in a December 2022 press release. Congressman David Cicilline said the 14th Amendment makes clear that based on his past behavior, Donald Trump is disqualified from ever holding federal office again. And under Section 5, Congress has the power to pass legislation to implement this prohibition. In other words, they believed Congress could do it themselves. That, of course, did not work, and it was kind of expected. Even Newsweek acknowledged it was a long shot. It stated at that time, last year, that there was a core legal problem with that attempt, since notably, Congress doesn't really have the legal right to make such a decision. It notes, quote, "Guilt cannot be legislatively declared, ensuring that only the judicial branch has this power." In other words, it has to go through the courts. Congress can't take the place of the courts. And that's what brings us to where we're at right now. It looks like the legal actions now being used against Trump, including the Georgia case, the narrative from special counsel Jack Smith, they've been a catalyst to revive this agenda. Well, everyone, that's it for YouTube. For the rest of this episode, come join us on Epoch TV. Link in the description. There's a lot of stuff I cannot talk to you about on YouTube because they censor it. When it comes to J6, vaccines, a lot of current news, YouTube will give us strikes. They will censor us. We cannot talk about it. If you want to have your rights to free speech, if you want to be able to hear information that informs who you vote for, if you want to be able to access information that is censored, suppressed, and otherwise removed from the public eye, come join us on Epoch TV. We have a lot of great content there, documentaries, movies, the rest of this episode, and a lot of other great stuff. We have some really important things to talk about still. We're going to have Trump's spokesperson here with us talking about the mugshot seen around the world, I guess we can call it. Many other things happening with his campaign. We'll also be talking about what looks like what we warned about previously. The Chinese economy's, let's say, delayed economic collapse is now upon us. There's a lot happening there that's not really being discussed widely. Important stuff again. Join us in Epoch TV for this. We have a flash sale going on right now. 25 cents for a week. Come join us. I'll see you there.
People from 160 countries illegally cross the U.S.-Mexico border and give themselves up to Border Patrol. But what about the ones who evade Border Patrol? These are known as the gotaways.
You can safely assume that anybody that went through the extra effort to avoid U.S. Border Patrol was not an asylum seeker by default.
It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but somewhere down the road, if somebody rapes and kills somebody, and we find out that they came through here on my watch, that's unacceptable.
These men had surrounded my house. They were banging on my back door. They were banging on my front door.
You can't understand it unless you're out here seeing it every day. 21 dead bodies on the property.
Code 3 response.
Is it wrong to ask people to come to your front door of your home? Then why would it be wrong to ask people to come to the front door of our nation?
Their primary goal is to circumvent the checkpoints, go undetected.
People that do not want to surrender, those are going to be the potential terrorists, the criminals, the real threat to the U.S.
We were hoping the federal government would step in and do something, but they didn't.
We have no clue who they are or where they're going. That's the scary part.